Can't decide and torn between a romantic, comedy, action, or an indie film to watch for the weekend? Well. Golden State Media Concepts Movie Podcast is your ultimate guide to the latest movies. Join us as we dissect the latest on the blockbusters. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Movie Podcast.
Welcome to the GSMC Movie Podcast, brought to you by GSMC Podcast Network. The two movies we're going to talk about on this episode are Can You Ever Forgive Me, which is just recently out in theaters, and to go along with that, a one that's on Netflix. I believe it's on Netflix. You can find it on Netflix, Amazon, I think all of those.
I think I watched it on Hulu.
Okay, cool. Yeah, stream it. And that one is called Big Eyes. So to start with, Can You Ever Forgive Me? This was just released October 19th this year, 2018. The director was Marielle Heller. Both of these are based on true stories. So this one, the cast is Melissa McCarthy. She plays the celebrity biographer Lee Israel in the 1980s. I want to say, yeah, it was the 80s. And Lee Israel finds herself, the basic kind of storyline is she finds herself unable to write or sell productively to pay her bills as far as any biographies go. So she kind of slips on this note from a previous author. And so she has this random idea and she starts to embellish notes and letters and passing them off as other more famous authors. So and then after, she has a friend who helps her after she has already started doing this. She gets her friend Jack to help sell the letters to these other what are they, they're like
collectors.
Yeah, collectors and stuff like that. And then after being found out and sentenced, because she does get caught, because this is plagiarism, she ends up writing a book about it after she gets sentenced and goes to court and everything. And the book that she writes about her whole story about doing all this is called Can You Ever Forgive Me? And if you watch the movie, you'll understand why it's called that. It's not just because, her forging all these, exactly, but you'll understand why, because she quotes, I think somebody, Dylan, I don't know, but yeah, I actually love movies that are based on true stories or based on actual events. I also just like how me and Heidi like documentaries, which, by the way, I'm your host Arianne and Heidi's here with me. She looks wonderful today. Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, we're going a little backwards
fashionably
today.
late.
Yeah, we are. We are. Look at us wearing black today. We look good.
We are. We're fancy.
Yeah, we are. But yeah, we both like documentaries. And if you like anything based on true stories or actual events, you'll like this one. Because, it was really good. I loved it. It definitely had a real 80s feel to it. It was based in New York. I do want to say that it was a little slow paced. So I don't know. It didn't give if you're looking for, because she's forging these notes and, letters, it doesn't really dive into the, excitement of, her possibly getting caught.
Oh, like it's excitement of, it's not like an exciting crime story.
Yeah, it's not. It's
like a slow crime story.
It really is. And that's why I kind of liked it, though, because it wasn't like, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen? It's just, she's just kind of nonchalant, kind of really confident about selling these fake, stories or these fake letters. And she does a really good job about it. She even makes jokes with the people she's selling them to, because they read them to see if, to try and kind of guess if they're real. And they're like, oh wow, this is really good. And because it's all her writing, she's like, yeah, I thought so too. Like in a lot of them, she's just, because she like made up a lot of this stuff. So,
right. I also, something about the way that it's like slow, it's like very, I feel like a lot of this takes place like when it's like colder outside.
Yeah.
And it has this like gray feeling, which I feel like fits some of like the character Lee Israel, like where she is in her life.
Right.
Like because when you find her, she's like lost a job and she can't pay her bills. She can't pay her vet bill for her cat.
Right.
And like things in her life are, I don't know, I wouldn't say crumbling, but they're just like in a bad place.
Right.
And I feel like the whole movie has this like tone of like there's like an undertone of like melancholy in a way.
Yeah.
And I think like it is also slow because when you think about like forging letters, I don't think of that as like a major crime.
Right. You wouldn't
know?
think of it.
So I feel like it's not like a super exciting crime drama. You know, she's not like stealing jewelry or anything.
Right.
Because even like in the film, her friend Jack, who ends up helping her, he like doesn't even believe her.
Yeah.
Like how big of a crime this is.
Right.
She's like, we're committing forgery. And he's
Yeah.
like, whatever, this is a letter.
Yeah.
You know, written on a typewriter.
Exactly. Exactly. But I'm sure a lot of literary artists or people who are into that, they know the depth of forgery and
sure.
plagiarism.
Yeah.
So with her being a writer, she's like, you just don't get it. This
Right.
is so bad. And he's
Yeah.
like, no, it's not. Like,
Yeah.
I forged my mom's signature all the time when I was a kid. He doesn't say that, but I'm sure, you know, that's
yeah.
like the look he gives her, like, so.
Yeah. It also has like, I feel like it's slower, and it is Melissa McCarthy, who's like a pretty big like blockbuster actress.
Yeah.
This movie has definitely like a more indie vibe to it.
Yeah, it does.
And I enjoyed that. I would say, so what, also like last week we watched
Free Solo.
Free Solo, and that had also like an indie vibe. So like I appreciated, like I got to go back to my local independent theater.
Yeah, exactly.
and watch this film, and I definitely felt like there's like an intimacy of characters in a way, like between her and Jack, and like you get to like see their friendship, but also how there's such like opposite people,
Yeah.
and like kind of broken in different ways,
Right.
You know, and you really get to see that and get to know them on a more intimate, less blockbustery level.
Exactly. I thought Melissa McCarthy did an amazing job.
She did.
It definitely showed her range in this one. It was amazing. I want to say that you could definitely, the way she portrayed it, like you can feel her like desperation in those times when it's like Heidi said, like she's behind on her rent and she just lost her job, and when she did lose her job, she was already a few months behind on her rent. So like the, you know, hurt that her fear, her anxiety, like, just all of it. I thought she did an amazing job. Like, even, like I said, her confidence in just selling these, she's just all like, I'm going to, you know, at first she was a little nervous. And that was the funny part. I was just like, and she totally looks like in it. You could see that she's like, how do I hide that I'm going to steal this? Kind of like an amateur thief almost, just
Yeah,
like looking
yeah.
around everywhere. But I thought she did an amazing job.
I agree. Also, I really like the actor who played her friend Jack, who's Richard E. Grant.
Yes.
He played that so well.
He did.
And I also would say I liked that Melissa McCarthy was, like, she played this role. She's not likable.
No.
And not in a way that is humorous. You know, like, I feel she's played other characters that I laugh at or with, you know, and that was not this. Like, as you said, it really showed her range.
Yeah.
And she played a character that I feel is so opposite from what I expect her to be like.
Oh, exactly.
You know,
yeah.
she played it very well.
Yeah. And that is because, like, you don't want to like her because
Right, she's
of her
off-putting.
Yeah, her attitude is just, really, you're just gonna treat people like that and just say these things. She's very honest, like Lee Israel,
Yes.
the character. She was just like a very almost mean, blunt.
Yeah. I read a little bit about Lee Israel, and that was basically her whole life.
Yeah.
She was kind of mean and very, like, I don't want to, like, in the movie she says, like, I'm a person who likes cats more than people.
Yeah.
And that's basically her life, like, until the day that she died. She
Yeah.
was very solitary. And also of irony is she writes biographies and then becomes, I guess you could say, most famous for her autobiography.
Yeah,
When she's
exactly.
finally writing about herself.
Exactly.
And I feel like breaking out of being a biography writer, she had to forge letters that weren't necessarily in her own voice, but were like half her voice and
Right.
half this famous person.
Yeah.
And that's like what brought her out of like biographies about other people and like into her own life and her own story.
Yeah. And you'll see that if you go watch the movie, like just the transformation of it all.
Right.
Instead of just like of hers, like you said, Heidi, just writing about other people. And then, you know, there is a line in there when she's just like, she's too scared to open up and to just be herself and write all like that, all about herself and stuff like that. We're going to take a quick break and then we'll come back and talk more about Can You Ever Forgive Me?
Want to know the latest and hottest music hitting the airwaves? Don't be left out. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Music Podcast. Keith keeps you on the loop with everything you need to know from pop, rock, hip-hop, and the top 40. And we'll throw in news of your favorite artists, concert and tour dates, and so much more. Listen no further, because this is the gold standard in music podcast.
Welcome back to the GSMC Movie Podcast. We are going to continue talking about Can You Ever Forgive Me? And Heidi was mentioning something about a situation where who wrote to her?
Right. So something that I thought was interesting looking into Lee Israel herself, because as we were saying, like, I feel like Melissa McCarthy portrayed her very well.
Right.
And it made me interested in who she was as a person, like, a little bit more.
Right.
Because when the movie starts, Lee Israel is definitely in, I wouldn't say the pit, but in, like, a very, like, darker place in her life.
It was almost like almost the bottom of her downfall.
Yes, I would say. Probably, like, yeah. And again, as I said, that really, you see that in the lighting of the whole film.
Right.
But especially when it begins, she's like, I forget the term for it. It's like she's just working, doing writing. And it's not even writing a book.
Right.
She's like editing. And it's definitely not what she wants to be doing.
Right. And it's for somebody else, too.
Right.
She's
It's
just
for
like
someone
working
else.
in an office almost.
Yeah. And that is like the low point of her career, because before that happened, before she was doing that type of editing and work, she was selling bigger books. She had a New York Times bestseller.
She did, yeah.
That they mentioned in the film. But the first letter that she actually sells for money before she starts like forging letters is a letter that she had received from Katharine Hepburn. Because when Lee was writing for Esquire, she wrote a piece about Katharine Hepburn, she wrote about it shortly before the death of Spencer Tracy. And so Katharine Hepburn was really touched by Lee Israel and about what she wrote, that she then wrote Lee Israel a very nice letter.
Right.
And I believe even in the movie, they're like, oh,
Yeah.
are those like tears on the letter?
Yeah, she sold that letter.
She sold that
Yeah.
letter. That's how desperate she was.
Yeah.
Because she had been a more prominent writer beforehand. She had a publicist and everything.
Right.
And then she sort of hit this rock bottom point when
Yeah.
she started doing forgery and things like that.
Yeah.
And I feel like just like it's sad. It was hard to watch in the movie, but then it was like sadder for me to read about, like, oh, like that's so sad, like the
Yeah.
downfall and then what you turned to.
Right.
Not that she's a super sympathetic person, but
Right.
she's not very nice.
Yeah, you don't really want to like her because of her
don't.
attitudes, like we said.
Yeah,
But-
and she has like a drinking problem.
Yeah.
She's not super friendly.
Yeah.
And she really only has one friend.
Yeah, and she's even a jerk to him. Like
She is.
She shows like she tries to be nice to him, but it just doesn't work out.
No.
Because he even tries to be like funny and friendly with her,
Yeah.
and it's like you're just the B word all
She has
the time.
terrible communication.
Why? Yeah,
Really bad.
yeah. But yeah, and I think that's what like it gave her that idea, but then she kind of threw that idea away until she was doing research and found another note in the book. Yeah.
Yeah. So
And-
she wasn't going to start selling letters until
Right.
she found the other note. And while she was trying to do research for her biography, so it felt
Right.
like you see her like trying to make an honest
Effort.
to
Yeah.
make a living, you know, and get
Exactly.
paid. And then she finds these other letters in like a library book, which is actually what happened.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
And now I feel very suspicious of all the library books that I've gone through.
I know.
Like, can I just find money in here? That'd be great.
Right.
But unfortunately, I never have.
Me either. I mean, we could have, but when we just didn't see the opportunity, because the amount she sells these like simple notes and letters is amazing. Well, back in the 80s, I'm sure it was amazing because it's like a couple $100. There's one scene where it's like, oh, this one letter is a month's rent.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? How much was rent?
And like to think that she was, rent in New York, really. And like she was like forging letters. So really, like, and she seemed to kind of enjoy it because she's a writer.
Yeah.
She enjoyed like creating these like quippy letters between figures. And she became the perfect criminal for this.
Yeah.
Because she was a biographer, she knew about all these people.
Exactly.
So she like knew what she could write about.
She already had done her research
she already
about
knew
these
everything.
people. Exactly.
Which was just like, she was perfect.
Yeah. I loved all the different tools that she used. Like in it, she has like 4 different typewriters to just forge them all. You hate to love her. That's kind of what it
really
is.
Exactly what it's like in this film.
It really is. It really is. But yeah, you don't really, I really like the aspect of, you can see her transition of like, her sliding to rock bottom, going through her little ordeal, and then after it all, and her sentencing, the court scene was hilarious because she goes on about, at the end of court, the judge asks her, is there anything you'd like to say? And then she just goes on this spiel, and you just kind of look at it like, really? That's what you're going to choose to say?
To try and get yourself less punishment. You're just going to say that?
Yeah. And, but she ends it really well. And then you can see the transition of her, like really not in the drinking aspect, but in the life and writing aspect, she tries to make that a little bit better. And then in coming out with this autobiography of herself, and hence what this whole movie is about, that's what she comes up with, and I thought she did an amazing job. Like Melissa McCarthy, I want to go learn more about Lee Israel. It's like Heidi did, because I'm just all like,
Wikipedia.
I know. You know what? This is the internet now. I can look up anything.
It's all at your fingertips.
Right. But I thought this was a great movie. If you don't like slow paced kind of things like that, don't go watch it. You'll get bored.
Right. This is not a children's movie.
It's really not. Yeah. And it does because it's so slow, it kind of feels like it lasts forever, but it's like an hour and a half, an hour and 40 minutes.
Right. It's not actually that long.
It's really not. It just kind of feels like it. But I like I said, I like true stories, and so I enjoyed this movie.
Right. I agree. It was well told.
Yeah. Yeah. And played too.
Yes.
The characters were amazing.
For sure.
The actors, I mean. The next movie we're going to talk about is called Big Eyes, and this is kind of the same concept. So this was released December 2014. The director was Tim Burton. Also based on a true story in the late 1950s, early 1960s. And it's about this famous painter named Margaret Keane. The story tells about how she paints these wonderful children with like extremely large eyes, like so misproportional to the face.
Right. Hence the movie title.
Yeah,
you
big
cannot
eyes.
Miss their eyes.
Right. But anyway, her husband Walter Keane passes the paintings off as his own, and just kind of they make good money off of it, but he kind of just tells her, nobody wants to buy from a woman. We just better say they're from me. Like how he kind of explains it to her. But so she kind of goes along with it, and this breaks their marriage eventually because these are her paintings, and she, if you're passionate about something the way you are passionate about like your kids or anything else, like that's a part of you, and she took this as a part of her and kind of broke their marriage. And anyway, so like what the story is at first she didn't really want him to sell him off as her. She's like, you're a painter, sell your own, like these are mine. And he kind of does it low key behind her back, and she finds out about it. And then he explains, I better say they're from me because we can make more money. He is a really good salesman. I will say that. Walter Keane, they make so much money, especially for back then.
And really it seemed like pretty fast.
Yeah.
She became, I was watching this, and it sort of reminded me of like Thomas Kincaid, like the painter who paints like all those like scenes of like, it's cottages and the street is always after it rained, and it's like very like their hearts, and it's like pretty. And then he sort of sold them as like, now it's Thomas Kinkade, painting Disney scenes in his style, and their puzzles and their mugs and their postcards.
Yeah.
And he became like a pop culture like figure in his like work. And I feel like that happened to her work, and like the Big Eyes, like the characters that she would draw, they like printed a bunch of things and sold a bunch of copies, and they made so much money so fast because of that like mass production.
Oh, exactly. So he was an amazing seller.
He was.
But I loved this movie. I like the storyline because how it matches with Can You Ever Forgive Me? They're both artists in a way. Hers is more painting, and
they're both creatives,
but the paintings were amazing. So this is an older movie, but I do want to say that if you watch it, it's again like the husband is just a jerk. You do not even want to like him, and you can totally tell like the 50s 60s era, like how you do not talk back to like the head of the household basically. And she should have been the head of the household because they're all her paintings, and he's just like so scum. I swear.
And it wasn't even so. Walter Keane was her second husband. So she had a daughter. Right. So she came from one bad relationship then to another one.
Right.
And also, Margaret Keane is played by Amy Adams, and I thought she did a great job. And also, Walter Keane, I would almost argue, I thought he did an even better job, is played by Christopher Waltz. And he's also in like Inglourious Bastards and movies like that. And I think he was great because he played such a ridiculous character of a person that you hate.
Yeah.
And you're also like, and you're also kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And he played that so well.
He was
because he's
crazy.
So controlling and manipulative. But also, at first you're like, I don't really hate you. I mean, you eventually hate him.
You do. Yeah.
But you see how Margaret like fell into that.
Exactly.
But you even like that she fell into the relationship so fast, but she was trying to like protect her daughter to like pay for things.
Right, because she got
money.
Exactly. Her ex-husband threatened to take away their daughter because he basically claimed that she was an unfit parent because she had no stability. Right. So and that's where you kind of start to like Walter. You're like, oh, okay, you're gonna come kind of save him, I guess. But then he just kind of steals everything, and you just slowly hate him on that.
Yeah, and he was so manipulative, and like Margaret Keane, like you can tell she had a more docile personality. Yeah, where she was easily like dominated by him. Oh yeah, and just completely manipulated.
Right, and see, that's when I was just like thinking in that film, is it because of the times where you were taught to not talk back, or is it because she was really just, like Heidi said, docile, and she just didn't have the strength in her to say?
I thought that too. And I also wonder if some of that is like our lens looking back. We're like, oh, the 50s and 60s, they were so controlling. Or, right. Whether that's true or not. I wonder if some of that is like our own current society, like viewing it that way as like, well, she just couldn't speak back because that wasn't the time,
Exactly.
But she does have a friend who is like a single woman artist. Yeah,
doing her
more independent. Yeah. She doesn't have a child. But.
Right. But she definitely speaks out. And that's what I liked about her friend. And she kept it, real with her throughout this. Like, I know your secrets. You don't have to do this. Like, speak up, say what's real,
Right. And her friend is played by Kristen Ritter, who also does a great job.
She did. Yeah. We're going to take a quick break and then come back and talk more about Big Eyes.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the GSMC Movie Podcast. We're going to continue talking about Big Eyes. I was just telling Heidi, so I can actually relate to her not being able to speak up. I don't know if I was probably telling you this in my head. But if you're ever in a relationship where, you know, you are getting manipulated or kind of overempowered by somebody else, you kind of get that feeling. So that's why I kind of questioned, was it the times or was it really her just being a little kind of weak in that aspect to not be able to speak up for herself? Because I have been in a situation like that where it's like, oh, you better not speak up or something's going to happen kind of thing, you know? So,
especially when she had that, like, someone who, you know, her daughter who relied on her.
Exactly.
It's like, oh, well, it's not just me now, you know, so the stakes are higher.
Right. And I hated how he tried to make it seem like all of the paintings were his when the daughter spoke up. And that's what I really liked. The daughter spoke up a few times in it and was like, there was a situation where he was trying to sell the paintings and put up posters about the paintings to sell them. And the daughter was like, I remember when my mom painted that. And he's like, no, you don't. And she was like, yeah, I do. I was standing here and she like told the whole thing and he was just like, no. You remember that. I mimicked your mom and I did this painting and to try and like hush her up because it was a big family, like him and her secret between the marriage of you're going to do the painting, meaning Margaret Keane, she's going to do the paintings and Walter was going to sell them. And for the simple fact that she signed all of her paintings Keane.
Right, just the last name.
Yeah, and so that's why they were able to sell them off as his because both of their last names were Keane.
Right.
So, until she came up with an idea where she would put her initials and then Keane on there.
Right.
So I thought that was awesome of her to do that, and that's kind of how she got back to at him when he was like, "You're going to give me more of these paintings," and she was like, okay, fine, but then she signed all of them with her initials and then Keane, and he threw a fit. It was hilarious.
And I think also you see that like with the initials is you see her beginning to try and assert herself, you know, and she's trying to like break free in a sense, but I feel like some of it is like she was kind of deeper into it at that point, but she tried to like assert herself and be an independent artist, and he didn't want it, you know, and also like I feel like the whole time I watched this with my boyfriend and we were like, you know, like he's trying to make the argument of like, oh, well, it's easier if I just sell them as my paintings. We're like, it wouldn't actually be any more difficult for you to sell them as your wife's paintings. You know, like that's like such a weak excuse. It was. How good of a salesman are you? If you're that good, you'd be able to sell them saying they're your wife's. And that almost makes like a better story, you know?
It does, because it's like, oh, you're trying to help out your family.
Right.
You know?
I feel like people will want to, I mean, I feel like he was in love with the idea of like, especially in like the 60s and like that era of like artists who were like really macho and like individualistic and like the male artist.
Right.
I feel like he was in love with that idea.
Oh,
and that's what he wanted for himself.
Yeah.
So he wasn't going to like try and sell it as a family man, which he totally could have.
Right.
But I also see that he like was just as a person had that like fixation if that's what he was going to be, and he was just going to use anyone around him to get it.
Yeah, he showed that too when you can tell how angry he got when he would talk about, I went to this art school, and just like he wanted to be a painter. Like that was his dream, but he's not a good painter. He was he couldn't even paint. He just he liked the idea of it, so he wanted it so bad, but he had zero skills. So even when he met her, he was passing off somebody else's paintings as his own, and she found that out too. So it's like, what is wrong with you? This man is crazy. I do want to say though that so because this is based on a true story, you can go look it up. There's no spoilers here, but she ends up divorcing him, and he tries to like kind of like not really blackmail her, but still kind of control her. Like, no,
you have to take all the rights of all the paintings.
He's like, that's my name, and if you're gonna divorce me, you're gonna give me everything, all and all this stuff, or you're gonna do me so many more paintings, and so I can sell them later. And that's when she kind of put her name on them and all that stuff. And then she was just like, no, I'm not gonna do that. Like, what is wrong with you? And I thought it was funny because if you watch the end, it says that after they got divorced and then they had their little battle with who's the rightful owner or the person who actually painted these paintings, and they found it was her, that till the day he died, he still claimed that those were his paintings.
Right. Yeah. So basically he died like a poor, crazy person.
Yeah. Cause he lost all his money, and you can tell like he was mentally unstable.
Yeah.
Unstable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And also just the whole time, because there is like when she's like finally when she stands up for herself,
yeah,
she's gonna like take it to court. And, like, that kind of, like, happens, like, she basically, like, starts to feel better about herself and in her own self-confidence and start to come out of her shell. And then she also, I believe, like, joins the Jehovah's Witnesses. Yeah. And she, like, has, like, a new revelation in herself.
Yep.
But, like, the whole time, like, you see, like, there's a whole court scene and everything. Like, he's insane.
Yeah, he is.
He really is. And
he
the
is
whole
crazy.
time, also around the end of, well, not the whole time. Around the end of the film, like, I was just like, there has got to be a way that he cannot win.
Right.
Because he's a complete villain and he can't win.
Right.
And me and my boyfriend just the whole time were like, paint off, paint off. And finally there is a paint off. I will just say there's a paint off. You have to watch it yourself, but it was great.
It was.
And it was so satisfying.
It really was.
My gosh.
It really was. It was the climax, because you're just like, oh, finally.
Yeah, justice. Finally.
Yes. Yes. And it does give you that feeling. There was, to show like the crazy of him, I just want to say there's this one scene where when he's like getting drunk because she makes him paint this like huge mural for some like New York, like all around the world event.
Right. And she slaves away to make a giant painting.
Yeah, it was huge. Like they had to lift it by a crane to hang it on the wall. Anyway, it got bad reviews and he like threw a fit, got all drunk because it was his name on it and they all think that, you know, he's a terrible painter. Anyway, he literally like tries to kill her and her daughter, like by burning them out of a room. It was ridiculous. And then like after she had left and she like makes her statement about, you know, she wants to divorce him, and he says, don't you think you're kind of overreacting or being a little hash on that? I was just like, are you serious? You're just trying to kill them.
Yeah, exactly. So, I'm like, and that whole film I was like, finally she's away.
Right.
Like I feel like you start to, in the beginning of their relationship, you're just like, oh no, please. Yeah. Like you see like how he could be good, and then very quickly you're like, no, please don't go.
Right. But he even still gives you that like crazy, like kind of sketchy vibe. Like it's the same. You can see the friend has the same one. It's like weird how this is escalating like quickly, you know, like you already have a boyfriend. You're already married. It's only been how long?
And he's like not a great guy. Like, because she, like Margaret's friend is like, I have seen him around and he's with a lot of ladies.
Yeah.
Like, oh gosh. And Margaret's like, oh, I know. And you're like, no, you don't know.
Exactly. And her friend, I love her friend because she gives off what you're feeling. Yes. The friend is just all like, ill.
Yeah,
that's exactly how you feel.
Yeah. Like Walter's not good.
Yeah, exactly. And then when she goes to their big old house and tries to, and he, gosh, I just love her friend. She just does. She plays what you feel in that movie.
Yes. You need that character in a situation that is so frustrating.
You really do, because I had to watch this at home. I was again screaming at my TV. Yes, I was. Yeah. Mostly at Walter. I'm like, you jerk! Why would you do that?
I even was.
Yeah.
And also, I'd like to mention this was also directed by Tim Burton.
Tim Burton, yeah.
And I really like. I would say there are a lot of things that are very like Tim Burton-y
that
he directs.
Exactly.
Like a Quentin Tarantino movie is like, oh, this is Quentin Tarantino.
Exactly.
I feel that way with Tim Burton. Mm-hmm. This wasn't as intensely Tim Burton as I thought it was going to be. Because like there was elements that were painterly, like the color choices and some of the like effects in post were a little more like, felt a little bit like a painting. But I would say if maybe you are a Tim Burton film, this isn't extremely Tim Burton. It's not like The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Right. You won't get the Tim Burton 100% feel.
Right. But
like how you get with these
exactly. Movies. But if you don't like Tim Burton, this might be a little better for you.
Yeah, it will be. It will be
a good story.
Yeah, and like I said, it's based on the true story. They show like the real lady's still alive, I think.
Yeah, Margaret is still alive and still painting. She's still an active painter.
She's amazing. Yeah, and she doesn't. The paintings are crazy. They're good. They just look really weird. I don't know if I would want one because they're kind of creepy.
Right. The eyes are the window to the soul.
Yeah, and that's what she says in it, and I feel like she really means it. But,
They're big windows.
Yeah, this was a great movie. I loved it. I loved both of these movies actually.
Agreed.
But this one, unlike Can You Ever Forgive Me, this one isn't slow paced. It's a lot going on. So, and it is based in San Francisco, so you can understand if you've ever been to San Francisco. Yes. Everything is like on fast forward in San Francisco, so you can kind of feel the speed in that.
Right. And they also chose that part about San Francisco, like the artsy, like fast paced nature of like San Francisco in the 60s. Right. Whereas I feel like they did shoot Can You Ever Forgive Me in New York, but they chose these like parts of New York and like streets that were less busy, you know. And I feel like Margaret she wouldn't go into like the Times Square area, you know. She'd be on her own street doing her own thing. Exactly. Whereas I feel like when Margaret moves to SF, she's in the art scene and it's like in North Beach and everything, where it's faster and more people and more colorful.
Exactly. For sure. Exactly. But me and Heidi, we think that these are both great movies if you're into true stories and things like that. Yes. Art in any kind of form. Right. I really liked that aspect because one of them is a writer, one of them is a painter. Right.
If you're into to stories about women, these are great stories.
Exactly.
One woman who you love and root for, another one who you're like, well,
you kind of deserve it.
Kind of like you, but not much.
Yeah, exactly. So if you want to check them out. They're good to watch with friends. So yeah, date night. I mean, your boyfriend might feel a little bit bored.
My boyfriend threatened to fall asleep during Big Eyes and did not the whole time.
Nice. So see, there you go.
I'd say you can stick through it.
Yeah, stick through it. Group of friends or just two people, it doesn't matter. They're really good. Thank you so much for listening to this movie podcast, and join us next time with, I don't know what we're going to talk about next time. More movies, but we don't know which ones.
We're excited.
All right.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Movie Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.